for joining us.
Yes.
Divya, Khalil, thank you very much for getting this done. We will very quickly take you through the program, which is that you are meeting the deans of the research centers here. We'll take you through a small presentation on what we do as a university, and then on what we do as our research company. We will then take you over to meet some of our students who are very curious to see you, have some questions for you. But firstly, formally, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, let me welcome you here. We are, as you see, we are a rather unique university because of the mandate that we have and the work that we do. And in that, it was very nice of Salim to have brought in this opportunity to talk to you and tell you about what we do and see how we can work together. One major issue that we have is that we have a large number of students who look for jobs, and the biggest hurdle in their path is the English language.
Sure.
And therefore, that is a great opportunity for us in working together. But I'll just ask Sunny, who's our Dean for Academic Affairs and head most of these initiatives right now, to take you through a little presentation that we have. Which tells you about the university. It's a very quick thing.
Lights off. Lights off. Thank you. This is the university. Yes, thank you.
ये यूनिवर्सिटी शरीर हिंदुस्तान की तामीर में उभरने की हिस्सा करती है। जमहूरी हिंदुस्तान की दानिशगाह उर्दू मीडियम के जरिए रिवायती और फासलाती तर्जुमानी की वजह से पूरे मुल्क में एक इनफरादी नाम रखती है। ये मखसूस इदारा न सिर्फ इल्म व आगाही की नई जगहों से निगाहें को सैराब कर रहा है, बल्कि गंगा जमुनी तहजीब की आबियारी में भी
The beginnings are telling you about how the university began and why.
एक्ट के तहत मरकजी यूनिवर्सिटी की हैसियत से कायम हुई। इसके 4 वाज़ेह बुनियादी अगराब मकासद हैं। उर्दू ज़बान की तरक्की व तरक्की, उर्दू ज़रिए तालीम से पेशेवराना और तकनीकी तालीम की फराहमी, उर्दू ज़रिए तालीम से आला तालीम हासिल करने के ख्वाहिशमंद अफराद को रिवायती और फासलाती दोनों तर्ज़ तालीम के तहत यकसा मौक़ा फराहम करना, और
this is the important part. So you will find that we have disproportionate number of women.
That's wonderful. 7 schools.
इस स्कूल का क़याम 2004 में हुआ। इसके तहत 6 शोबे बड़ी दिलचस्पी के साथ।
We are now 20 years old.
शोबे उर्दू, शोबे अंग्रेज़ी,
20 next year. 20 years.
19.
शोबे अरबी और शोबे
18 gives me 20.
Our total faculty strength now is 312 faculty and
2,000 students, I think,
Yes,
I heard?
more than
Something like that.
6,000.
Oh, 6,000. Okay.
All together.
Oh, okay. Okay.
MSW के तलबा ने
Social
मुल्क की मुख्तलिफ गैर सरकारी तंजीमों में यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम रोशन किया है। दीगर शोबों की कारकर्दगी भी काबिल सताइश है। शोबे तालीम निस्मा, शोबे नज़्म व नस्क़ आमा, शोबे सोशल वर्क या हमारी काम, शोबे इस्लामियात, शोबे सियासियात, शोबे तालीम, शोबे समाजियात और शोबे माशियात। इस स्कूल के तहत 2 शोबे मैनेजमेंट और शोबे कॉमर्स दोनों की तरह हैं। शोबे इंतज़ामिया यूनिवर्सिटी के उन चंद शोबों में से एक है जिन्होंने अपनी मेहनत बदन की वजह से अपनी एक अलग
this is the tough one too. You know, to really ensure that we stay on the technological state of the art while retaining the Urdu character.
They're not mutually exclusive.
इस स्कूल के तहत चलने वाला माही शोबा शोबा तहसील आमा और सहाफ़त यूनिवर्सिटी के चंद नुमाइंदा शोबों में से एक है। कारकर्दगी के रहने से ये शोबा फ़आल और मुतहर्रिक है। इस स्कूल के तहत ऐसे पेशवाना अपराध की
How long has you been
जाती है
He 2 years plus.
So you are quite alone.
Yeah. I like to say that.
I think by now his son speaks Telugu, right?
And Telugu, that's my weak friend.
इंस्ट्रक्शनल मीडिया सेक्टर में मोबाइल से टेलीविजन, डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज और न्यूज़ वगैरह की अमली तरबियत दी जाती है। इस स्कूल के तहत शोबे कंप्यूटर साइंस और इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी चंद पुराने शोबों में से एक है। इसके तहत चलने वाले कोर्सेस में MCA दोहरे कोर्स के मौके के साथ यानी तालिब इल्म एक साल में डिप्लोमा इन इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी PEIT या 2 साल के बाद NSC इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में डिग्री हासिल कर सकता है। इसके अलावा NSS और दीगर शोबेदारी
You have complete information in the profile which we have kept on file.
Oh, thank you. I will take it. Thank you.
And update it because this film is a bit dated.
Okay. Thank you. Changing quickly then.
Alright, now may I request Professor Luna for his
Presentation, you go ahead.
for his
This
presentation
is
of what
research
we are
at
doing
MANUU.
in research.
So good afternoon, Ketrine and Oliver and other members. Actually, the university has some uniqueness. Before that, what the priorities and what the initiatives we have, just I am giving a few slides. So this one mainly about our background. So we have 7 schools and 24 departments and 17 constraint institutions and centers are there. So we are the A grade accredited institution based grade by NAC, and then we are also part of the MARF National Ranking Framework between 101 and 150. And also we have recently we got in 2017 so InTouch Heritage Award so for the rock reservations in the campus. So this is the one main important thing. In addition to that, we have the 4 kinds of program, that is general, professional, technical and vocational. So all types of education that is being offered in this institution, we have various regulatory body approach. So how different from other universities? So we have a distinction of offering academic programs in all forms of general, technical, professional and vocational education, and also showcase the uniqueness of delivering instruction through Urdu medium from elementary to higher education level, more or less from KG to PhD. So one of the central universities in the country with national jurisdiction to open off campuses across the states and offering courses, programs in Urdu medium under both regular and distance mode in all forms of education delivery. So that is even distance and as well as regular mode. In addition to that, mainly we have our presence is now felt in more than 10 states in the country. So catering the education needs of the society by reaching the unreached, that is the main thing, because earlier the Urdu speaking population is considered they are not access to the best part of the education. So this the MANUU is focusing on that. So transforming the university into a sustainable eco campus, so you might be noticing how green it is, and also to establish a management framework for conservation measures in terms of environment as well as energy and water, so that create the impact on national culture as well as the policy. So further, if you look at the university status, nature and size and shade, so we are a central university established through an Act of Parliament in 1988 and offers programs in Urdu medium, and are 17 constraint colleges and institutions covering more than 10 states, and delivers academic research and training programs in nearly 72 programs and courses, 21 PhD, 14 MPhil, 21 PG, 10 P, UG, 6 diploma and 5 certificate courses. So during the end of the 11th plan and 12th plan, there is a considerable enhancement, 200% raise in the student enrollment from 1999 to 6,696. The faculty 293 to 384 and other staff that is 19 to 130, that is mainly for the school education. The staff, non-teaching staff around 362, 364, 398. And the plan grants earlier it was 112.50 and 12th plan it is became the 208. So this is the off campuses, just to briefly shown on that. And further our achievements during 12th plan if you look at. So we have 20,440 square meters of building we constructed during the 12th plan. And also we have ICT network, 2/3 of the campus is Wi-Fi enabled, and library 21,448 books are there, and we have workshops and labs for skill development, and for sports there is gymnasium and the grounds are there.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry, because in the 6,700 students,
Yes.
so what is the ratio of female versus
So female earlier it was only 23%. Now this year it has been raised to 28%.
28%?
But in this school that we're in now, it's
Yeah.
higher, right? It's like
60.
40, how,
60%.
60% women?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I think it was the reverse of what I remembered. I thought it was 40% women.
No,
So no,
60.
60% women.
Very
Wow.
deliberate.
School has an inverse ratio compared to the rest.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Very
what,
interesting.
because we have a double mandate for women. The
Okay.
university has one and we have another on top
I
of
see,
that.
okay.
So this
In
is
some,
academic
in some
milestones.
departments, we have more girls than boys.
Boys.
For instance, say,
It's
That's the 60.
Yes.
Wow.
we have 55 girls and 50
60,
boys.
60 girls and 40.
40 by
64.
the coaching academy. Now if you look at academic milestones, we started 34 programs in the last plan, and schools, one school we added, that is computer science and technology, and another is department, 11 departments were added, and we added 7 campuses. During this, the gross enrollment ratio has been enhanced to 200%, and we have the research projects around 51, and research papers around 540 during this period, and fellowships 450, and PhDs produced 76, and MPhils 406. So this is the resources we look at. We got 1222 lakhs in fee receipts, and sponsored project 57 lakhs, and consultancy 8 lakhs, and continuing education 1.33, and publications we are having around 125 lakhs from the publication, like the manuals and other things. And filling up of posts, there is I think 384 sanctioned, and 312 we have filled, only 72 vacancies are now, and non-teaching there are 398, around 362 filled and 36 vacancies are there. So we have the 96% utilization of non-plan and both plan grants, so during this particular period. So further if you move, the research and training at MANUU, so we are mainly focusing on the language and heritage. So we established 4 research and training centers to provide the Urdu language and its heritage that cater the educational and cultural needs of Urdu population. So mainly the Center for Professional Development of Urdu Medium Teachers, and Center for Promotion of Knowledge in Urdu, and Center for Urdu Culture Studies, and Center for Deccan Studies.
I
These
don't
four.
want to be mean, but I'm just looking at
Okay,
the
so
time, and I
it's,
have to
the last 2
leave.
slides are
Okay,
this.
well, but I have to leave it.
So-
Well, no, it's a hard
Yes.
stop at 5:02, and I did want to meet the students.
So in addition to this, there is one social exclusion inclusive policy center and Center for Women Studies are there. Both social and gender issues we deal at. So as the research initiative is MANUU, this creating an ecosystem for promotion of research and innovation, developing sophisticated instrumentation and incubation facility, and encouraging the faculty to submit the research proposal to various funding agencies, supporting the motivated faculty through funding for minor research and innovation projects, establish centers of research and that make an impact on the society, and also for outreach, and proposing various research policy initiatives that ensure the quality output, and promoting university institute industry interface for effective collaborations, and networking with various research and training based organizations through MOOs. We have more than 18 MOOs are there at the moment with various organizations, and centering research programs in science, technology and engineering management is a now priority, because we want to have the cutting edge publications and work to do. So this research design principles like any other normal research, that's the reason I am not going further on this. So further, the last thing is, this is the future initiatives where the 5-pronged strategy we adopted, that is research services, research administration, research training, and research business and research facilitation. First, in the research services, we want to have Center for Sophisticated Instrumentation Facility and also Center for Digital Library Resources, so for the students to access. And under research training, we want to have interdisciplinary schools in the cutting edge areas, mainly the information technology, biotechnology and nanotechnology. And then we have the research facilitation, mainly Center for University Industry Interface and Center for Entrepreneurship Development. And under research dissemination, we want to have Center for Quantitative and Analytical Methods for mainly statistical analysis. And another one, Center for Professional Advancement and Continuing Education. And under research business, we want to have Center for Sponsored Research and Consultancy and Center for Patent Facilitation Services. This we want to go ahead. So this is the way just we planned it, our research. And thank you.
Thank you. That was actually very
You
insightful.
wish to ask any question? Because all these are sitting here, or we should move to that?
No, we move in 5 minutes, but if there is anything...
Is there anything?
Or maybe if you have, I mean, we had discussed actually, and my colleagues can follow up, the possibility of assisting the school with English language instruction, both directly for students and for teachers. So I know we've had a good dialogue about that. This is very impressive. I mean, I think that you're reaching out to the scheduled casts, underserved communities, the instruction in Urdu, it's all, very, very important. I think that we certainly endorse, education as a means of advancement. So it's really wonderful. I mean, the atmosphere I'm picking up in the school is really just one of a lot of positive energy and dedication. So I wish you all the best, and I look forward to our continued cooperation. So
We actually had a very good discussion with the Vice Chancellor on that very issue of English language. And next month, 14 and 15, we have someone who heads our English language resources planning. He's coming to Hyderabad and we will set up that meeting, and I'm sure we probably will have the exact response for what.
We'll be only to have, we'll be really delighted to take that. I think on the research itself, because we do a lot of rather unique research in the country, you would have noticed that some of our research is very focused towards Urdu, towards regional issues, history, and that is the kind of research that the only other country that does it is the United States, really. And that is where we would really like to explore some common areas that we can work on.
Well, maybe having USIEF come here and do a presentation on what kinds of exchanges are possible and how, and they also vis-a-vis your students, to the extent they're willing and interested and able to go to the United States, they have a lot of fantastic information about how to choose the kind of school. They don't pick the actual schools, but they will give advice on how to pick the kind of school, how to do an essay, for example, fill out an application that will attract the interest of a U.S. school, things like that. So certainly we can, if I'm sure they've probably been here before, but maybe it's time for another.
We talk about the gender ratio in the students, but what about the faculty? You have also a very good mix of gender ratio.
Yes, we do have a good
For the
percentage.
faculty as well?
Yes.
Is it 25? Faculty, male, female? 25,
25.
25
Sometimes.
The good number of women are there in the
Even research scholars we have. Women research scholars we do have.
scholars in higher in the
Person.
And it's quite a deliberate policy now to induct more women both as researchers, fellows, and as faculty. So you will see this ratio improve over the next few years.
And then the ratio we talk about, I think you mentioned it varies, the student ratio
From department to department.
Exactly.
It depends on the type of
Education has more
program.
Yes,
Education has more women.
Education has more women, most of the social science, this ratio gets skewed only because of a very high number in the polytechnic and the ITI, where you still have a large number of men compared to women. But in the Department of Education, where we have a larger intake, we have disproportionately high number of women.
In computer science, what's the ratio?
In computer science is okay.
Okay, 40.
40-60.
40-60.
welcome to one and all. It is an honor to have with us this evening Ms. Ketrine Hadda, the Consul General of the United States in Hyderabad, Mr. Salih Qadir, Advisor, Cultural Affairs for the Consulate of the US, Gabriel Onzoliver, am I?
That was very good.
Who is the PAO for the US Consulate in Hyderabad. Ms. Hadda is a member of the Senior Foreign Services with over 28 years of experience. And she has a lot of experience in policy positions in Asia, Europe, and Washington. Ma'am has a very illustrious career, and she has recently assumed the office in Hyderabad in 2016, October last year. Yeah. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ma'am on stage because you would really want to hear her career from her own words.
So first of all, it's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you for being so welcoming. I have to say that your classmate just gave the best reading of my bio that I've ever heard. It really summed up the key points very well. And I've heard it a lot over the last 10.5 months. So thank you. That was really very nice. I will give a couple of opening remarks, but I really want to hear from you and see if you have any questions for me. And then maybe we can have a bit of a conversation, because I think if I stand here and sort of talk at you, it's a wasted opportunity, really. And if you have any follow-up questions, we can always get to those later, maybe through my colleagues. But why don't we have about 25 minutes right now. So I don't want to be the one doing all the talking. All I'll tell you is I hear that you are all among the brightest students at this very large university. This university I've now been visiting since we arrived here in the late afternoon, and immediately it's just obvious what a welcoming environment you have here, and how dedicated the administrators and professors are here. And just, if I can say, there's a certain courtesy I'm observing here where learning is obviously respected. There's signs to be silent, and there really is silence. It seems like the kind of place you can think very deeply. So I think, I hope you're enjoying your studies here. But I also know that you in particular are very gifted students because you are going to take the civil service exam. And I come from a competitive entry process. To be a U.S. diplomat can be competitive. I think it was when I took the exam, it's ultimately there's a written exam and an oral exam. I think 1 in 200 applicants become a member of the Foreign Service. Since being here in India, I've come to realize that's kind of a large ratio compared to the even more competitive atmosphere that exists here. So I wish you all the best with that. I'm going to just say a couple of words about the U.S.-India relationship. Why am I using part of our valued 25 minutes to talk about the U.S.-India relationship? Because if you are successful, as I hope and trust you will be, in becoming an Indian civil servant, I can almost guarantee you that whether you're at the national level of government or the state, local level of government, you will have dealings with the United States. And it actually makes me very happy to say that, because from where we sit at the consulate in Hyderabad, and we oversee U.S.-India relations with Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha. And what we see just here in our own district is 130 American companies just here in Hyderabad. There are more major companies out in Andhra Pradesh. For example, in Sri City, there's PepsiCo, there's Kellogg's, there's so we see that. We see that Indian students are now the #2 group of students for foreign students in the United States. That's 166,000 Indian students. That number went up by about 25% in a single year, I think. I mean, it's really extraordinary. And the only group of students that's larger than Indian students is Chinese students, but the rate of growth in Indian students is higher than for China. So it's reasonable to assume that eventually there'll be more Indian students in the United States than anywhere else. So we have the academic relationship, we have, and there are many, many exchanges in addition to students. We have professors, we have Fulbright scholars, there's a unique program, the Fulbright Nehru Fulbright scholars who are chosen to go to the United States, a very prestigious program. So that exists. We have a trade relationship that frankly is too small given the size of our respective countries, but it's growing a lot. So right now I think it's a 1.5 billion, and we hope it will grow even more in the coming years. So there's that. And then a lot of this is grounded in cultural relationships. So in Andhra, for example, we understand, and I believe it, 1 in 4 people have a family tie to the United States. So chances are good, either in your work or with your colleagues, you will be exposed to relations with the United States, which is good news. And I won't go into all the details, but at a high level, U.S. government, Indian government level, there's just tons of things going on. Virtually every ministry has some kind of dialogue with a counterpart ministry in the United States now, virtually all. So it's on cybersecurity, it's on agricultural issues, it's on just about everything. So again, I say, if you're as successful as I wish you will be, then chances are good you'll be working with us, and I'm very happy about that, and I think things will get even better. So I think I'm going to stop right there, and I would like to invite someone to ask a question, or shall we?
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
This was really great. Since we are talking about the India and US strategic relationship and all that, and we talked about this, the students, a lot of students from India going abroad to the United States and for studies and all that. So how do you see this H-1B visa issue?
Yeah. So people, not surprisingly, ask us that all the time. So the first thing is there's a lot of misinformation. There are no planned, at this stage, there are no proposed changes to the H-1B system. What has happened is the president asked various members of his government to look into the H-1B system and see where it needs, if and where it needs adjusting. So there really are no changes to see it. I will note just a couple of things about the H-1B program, and some of this is a little tough love. So the majority of beneficiaries of the H-1B program have been Indian students, but it's a global program. So changes that are being made, affect global applications. And what the H-1B visa is supposed to be, it's not really a student exchange visa. In other words, it's not designed to help students of any one country work in the United States. What it is meant to do is have companies in the United States be able to recruit talent that they cannot find in the United States. So it happens to be there are really a tremendous number of talented Indian students, which is why there are so many, Indian students. Our companies, value the H-1B program. There have been some companies that have, it's been felt that maybe stretched the program a little bit, that used it to hire people at a lower cost, let's say. I want to point out, and this, I arrived in India in October, and the election happened just a couple of weeks after I came. During the campaign, the now president, cited an American company for this issue. They were not singling out, any foreign companies for this. So that's why the review is happening, and we'll just have to wait and see. The only last thing I'll say is if changes to the program do happen, and I say if, it will not happen overnight, because most aspects of the program, the number of people who come, you know, the requirements of the program are actually congressionally mandated. So it has to go through our Congress, any changes. So we will see changes coming. And so at our consulate, we will see it as our responsibility to make sure that students will be well advised of any changes. Okay, kind of a long answer, but I hope a helpful one. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Rayan Sharif. After the tensions between USA and Iran, US government has asked India to reconsider its investment in Iran, especially in Chabahar port. But Chabahar port strategically is very important for India. So how do you look at it?
Yeah, okay. Well, I confess I am not familiar with that specific case, but I think it's important to remember that the desire to keep Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons was not just a U.S. desire. You know, these were multilateral talks. These are international obligations. In other words, Iran made an obligation to the international community. And I think it's a general principle of international relations that when a country makes a commitment in return for benefits, you have to hold the company to its country to its commitments, because otherwise you're really, negatively affecting the whole point of international diplomacy. So we do take it seriously. Our international counterparts also take it seriously. It's up to each sovereign country to decide in a way how it will apply, something like that. But we, in the United States and India, we have so many strategic objectives in common, including right here in this region, and we try and support, a lot of your objectives in the region. So yes, we regard India now as a partner, and that's how those discussions happen, so that we can help each other reach our security objectives. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Rafi Rahman. United States of America, a very great nation for being the oldest democracy in the world, right? But ma'am, nowadays there are the apprehensions, or you may call that misapprehensions, that United States of America is heading towards divided states of America. Divided on the basis of what? Divided on the basis of color, white and black, divided on the basis of rich and poor, divided on the basis of so-called natives and immigrants. India has a large diaspora over there in America. So, keeping this thing in mind, how do you see the role of civil society and the other democratic institutions functioning in the United States to make the United States nation great once again?
Okay. Well, that is a very multifaceted, excellent question. So let me try and pull it apart a little bit. There are, the United States, like India, is a boisterous democracy. And we go through phases, as I believe India goes through phases, of trying to define ourselves and what is most important to us. And I think you're right in that there are a lot of divisions in America, but I would put it, in addition to being they're not always necessarily divisions. What they are is differences. So if you live in a major metropolitan area, your view of the world, and you're on the coast, your view of the world will just by nature be different from someone who's living in a town in rural Pennsylvania where the only factory closed 5 years ago, and there haven't been a lot of jobs. And I think that would be true in any country. So I think what you're seeing is a lot of dialogue between what is the obligation of a country's government. Is it to provide economic growth? Is it to provide social stability? And because we are democracies, those kind of conversations can't be decided by one person. They have to happen through conversation. I believe, and I really do believe this, most of those conversations still happen in a polite, even if urgent, way. What you see in the newspapers are when, tragically, sometimes the conversation becomes a little out of hand or it takes the wrong turn. And we heard, you know, for example, the tragic shooting of Srinivas Kuchibhotla, for example, we were very aware of, very concerned of. It was condemned by the president, by all sorts of local state officials. But of course, people are concerned when they see something like that. For the vast majority of people, you know, people of color, minorities, you know, the United States remains a very safe and welcoming place. But unfortunately, things happen, and I would argue one case is too many. You know, you can argue, are they really increasing? It's a subject of some debate. You know, are these cases really increasing in the United States, or are they getting a little more attention now because of the other dialogue that's risen up around it? Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. One case is too many. It's not what the United States stands for. You know, we aspire to be a pluralistic, welcoming country, and so. But like any country, we have our moments, and so we're having that debate now. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, good evening. My question is, ma'am, global warming, climate change, terrorism. These are three important issues which are having a threat on humanity. But stand of America is always unclear on this because, first of all, instability on the stand in Paris climate change. What your president says one day, it moves away from the stability either. Second thing goes back to 1996. Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. This was a convention introduced by India long before the Twin Towers attack in September 11. So, ma'am, still there are some issues which America don't accept in that convention. So, ma'am, why is that there is the stand of America is always unclear on these two important issues?
Okay. Well, let me start with the terrorism one. You know, conventions are something, it's funny, governments may support them or not, and I confess, I'm not really familiar with the details of that convention. I can tell you we're certainly against terrorism. We've been something of the world leader. You know, you know, after 9/11, especially, for example, the notion of freezing terrorism finance so that, you know, it couldn't be used to fund terrorism became a big focus. We, with your government, we actually cooperate a lot on terrorism. We recently designated, you know, certain terrorists, which I think, you know, your government supported. We cooperate, we talk about best practices, we share information. So I think our support for, you know, against terrorism is quite strong, actually. And in terms of climate change, the president did withdraw us from the Paris Agreement. You know, the Paris Agreement is a non-binding agreement, and he did make the offer, though, to renegotiate some parts. And the international community wasn't that. You're shaking your head. A lot of members of the international community weren't supportive. You know, I think there are still things that we're very focused on that we cooperate on, including with India. So, for example, renewable energy, clean energy, you know, the kinds of things that will help clean up the air, no matter whether you believe global warming is, you know, man-made or not. These are positive things that we're working on together. So. So I think, you know, I don't think you'll see a decrease in cooperation. What's also very interesting is on a local level, you know, the different policies are emerging on a local level on this issue too. This is, again, one of these issues in the United States that I think is as we tend to do, you know, looked at, debated. So we'll see where we are. Is there anything else?
I have a question. Regarding India and China, there is a friction going on between these two nations regarding the Doklam area dispute. So, if this stand of leads to a full-fledged war, what will be the stand of US?
I think I'm just going to deflect that and say that we're very hopeful it won't, as I think both India and China are hopeful it will not, you know, devolve into a full-fledged conflict. You're much more the experts on this than I am, but I think when you have two powers like this at a brink, there's a general recognition it's really best to walk away from the brink in some ways. So I am not an expert in this area, but we all see a benefit in a stable world and as, you know, I'll leave it at that. We have told both sides we hope for a peaceful resolution of these issues. So.
What if the worst part of this happens?
What if what?
We are very much optimistic that it doesn't happen.
Right.
What if the worst part happens?
Yeah, I can't really answer that because so much would depend on what is really happening. I just am here to tell you I'm fairly confident it won't and hopeful it won't. But it is an issue for India and China to resolve. Not every problem actually lies at the United States door. So, thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
My name is Khushi.
Hi.
My question is, when it comes to bilateral relationship between India and US, so the path looks familiar. But if there's a conflict between US and North Korea, then what would India's role be in that situation? And on the other hand, if there's an issue between India and its neighbors in the subcontinent, then what would US's role be in that issue?
Okay, because again, I think this is it's very hard for me to look in a crystal ball and say what would be the response of the United States, what would be. I can only tell you what is right now the view. So regarding North Korea, this is another one of these cases, like a couple of these cases that we talked about, where you have an irresponsible international player shooting missiles, making threats. Just basically, for us, the threats are directed at us, but actually you have to remember the neighborhood in which North Korea lives. Have you looked at the map of North and South Korea and you realize how close Seoul is? And then Tokyo, so it's really destabilizing to the whole region. And I think it's really no exaggeration to say there isn't a country on earth that would really benefit from an open conflict that North Korea would cause. So again, it's UN mandates, and sanctions. It's the international consensus. So I think India's role we would see as being also, a full member of the international community to condemn these kinds of threats, these destabilizing actions. It's kind of, for lack of a better word, totally irrational behavior on the part of view. So, and the other thing about North Korea that we really regret is how they're failing their own people. So they're spending all their time threatening their neighbors, threatening us, and yet, there's threats of famine all the time. There's a total lockhold on the exchange. You're the largest democracy, we're the oldest democracy. Total lack of open communication in North Korea, total lack of an ability for people to get outside information. So it's just a very unfortunate, tragic situation. And it really is important for the international community to stick together on this. Thanks. I think you need. This is the last question. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hyderabad is being a software hub. Hyderabad is being considered as a hub of software. So how the thought process of Indian software engineers are different from US engineers, and what is the contribution of Indian software services to the US economy?
Okay, now that's a good question that I can't really answer with statistics, except to say that I've also been told that 1 in 4 Silicon Valley workers is from India. So that one, I've even had the vice president of Salesforce, which is a very major software company, he's actually from Warangal. He told me he was a little suspicious of that. But whatever it is, the contribution is actually very large. And in fact, the Telugu, this area's contribution is very large. I will only say, obviously, American companies think the potential here is very important because Microsoft has its biggest campus anywhere in the world outside the United States here. Google is building its largest campus anywhere outside the world here. We have Apple, we have Amazon. I mentioned those 130 companies. A lot of them are major companies. By the way, did you realize the CEOs of Microsoft and Adobe are both Hyderabadis, which we always promote. So this is actually a good opportunity for me to quickly tout the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. So have you all heard about this? Okay, so obviously it's a recognition. It will bring together 1,500 entrepreneurs from around the world, plus investors, plus mentors, plus speakers, and 400 from India. It's an invitation-only event. 400 from India, 400 from the United States, 400 international. So there was a recognition. Hyderabad competed with, I think, 5 other localities and won. So I think we left it to India, but we were delighted that Hyderabad was chosen because we do think of it as an important center. So, okay. I think, do I have time for the one more? Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay.
In today's newspaper, I have seen that Donald Trump, the president of USA, asked the Indian Prime Minister to look into the matter of Afghanistan. But why he is not going to take any action against Pakistan for bombarding Afghanistan? Why are you asking about Modi to do something?
Yeah, actually, you know, I should have read in detail the whole thing, but the president announced a major initiative and actually what was said about Pakistan, both by him and the Secretary of State, seemed to have made the government of Pakistan a little unhappy. So I think it did deal with the role of Pakistan. Certainly, I did serve in Afghanistan also, and the role of India at the time even, which was 2009 to 2010. India's role in helping to help Afghanistan build up its economy was very, very appreciated, particularly in help for women. There were some, you know, not necessarily expensive programs of assistance, but very effective programs. So Afghans have a real appreciation for India's role in their country. And so do we. So thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request our Pro Vice Chancellor, Mr. Shakil Ahmed, to speak a few words.
Good evening. Ma'am, it has come to my notice that you had a very good discussion with our Honorable Vice Chancellor. Thereafter, you discussed with our deans of faculties or schools, just you interacted. I consider that your visit to this institution is very important. Ma'am, I would like to draw your attention towards our, mandate of the university. Our university is unique and different. We have given you the literature in the form of profile of the university. It is a central university. It has a national jurisdiction. And the object of the university is to promote the women education. And then also the kind of people or the kind of student you will find here if you work here, if you extend your support to this university, it will be really, you will feel satisfaction, you will be happy, and then we wish that you continue to visit our institution. It is a very good place. Our campus is very good, and we have a very good infrastructure here. Really, you will enjoy if suppose you extend your support or facilities to our students. And I convey really on behalf of the university that we are really grateful for your for visiting this university, and we hope that in future also you will visit, and we will have some collaboration with you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for making a strong case of our university to ma'am. And I request Ashok, one of our students, who's also a very big philanthropist, to honor ma'am with a bouquet. Ma'am, please.
I would like to end this with a Sanskrit shlok, which goes like this: Tejasvina Vadita Mastu Om Shanti Shantihi, which translates to, may our study be enlightening without any animosity. I think this applies to the entire world as well as India and US relationships in particular. Thank you.